Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews. And look, it is a very exciting day because look what we have right here in front of us. It is the brand new 2019 Safari LTD Carnotaurus. I figured that if I was going to start reviewing the 2019 lineup from Safari, I should probably start with my favorite dinosaur, and that would be Carnotaurus. So I went ahead and got this guy out first to take a look at. We've got more 2019 Safari to come, but I really wanted to start out with this one because it's one of the ones I was really excited for the most, being Carnotaurus, and seeing as I love Carnotaurus, that makes sense. So I wanted to throw this guy up on the channel first, and I am super psyched to do just that. At first glance, I will say that this Carnotaurus is just beautiful looking as far as that paint scheme. I think the paint scheme is just incredible and really complements the Carnotaurus, because one thing that people always seem to love is red on a Carnotaurus, and they did include that here, but they also have kind of a mixture of orange, and I personally am a big fan of orange on dinosaurs because I don't know why, it just looks so striking and just makes them look super cool to me. But then the rest of the body is that darker coloration, and it's a mixture of different colorations of a darker brown and almost like a grayish green type color. It's a fairly strange, almost like an olive type of a color, but it really looks cool and just absolutely awesome in person. But anyway, let's get a closer look at it so you can see how cool it looks. So starting up here at the head, you can see that the head sculpt is really nice. Definitely a very beautiful looking Carnotaurus, and that eye is very nicely painted. There's no sloppiness with it at all. Just a very dark, menacing black coloration, but it's got a very beautiful gloss. And one thing that is actually really cool, and I'm not quite sure, closer I get, I don't know if it can pick it up here on camera, but the eye is like a dark color, like a black, but then when you get to the actual pupil, which is included in there, the pupil is a little bit darker. Again, it might be a little too hard to actually pick up here on camera. Maybe you can see it a little better with this eye, I don't know. But that actually looks really cool and makes the entire eye just look so real and alive. So I definitely dig the eyes a lot. I think that's a very cool touch that they did there as far as Safari goes. You can see the nostrils are sculpted out. That looks very cool. The nostrils are sculpted very nicely, as are the horns on the top of the head, and they are painted really well also. Very nice coloration that they put on those. It's definitely a realistic color, I feel. A lot of times people that make Carnotaurus figures kind of include an unrealistic color as far as the horns go, but Safari did not. They did a beautiful coloration up there on the horns. The inside of the mouth looks very good as well. Nice coloration there on the tongue. It's a little hard to really get light in there and pick up on the detailing of the inside of the mouth, but as you can see, it looks pretty darn good. And there's a nice gloss on the inside there as well. It makes the mouth shine, looks very realistic. You can see the teeth are painted a little bit sloppily, but not too bad. This side actually looks pretty good on the bottom. This side looks pretty good, but a little tiny bit of sloppiness, but nothing to write home about and complain about because it's not that bad at all. The upper side actually looks really good as far as the painting of the teeth goes. Yeah, that's definitely very nice. I dig the mouth area. The mouth looks very good, and the bottom here of the right side of the lower jaw is like the only area that has even a slight bit of sloppiness, but it's like literally just a slight bit, and that's to be expected when you're making so many of these figures with mass production. You can't expect every single one to have absolutely perfect teeth. That would just be really hard to do, so I cannot blame Safari for that. I think that looks pretty good regardless, and that is a pretty small mouth to get into and paint. So again, very nice. Definitely impressed with the head overall. Very nice detail, and I love that coloration. That just looks so cool, and there's so many different variations of color that's honestly in it, because you can see the front here of the snout kind of has this reddish coloration that leads to an orange and then leads back to a red, but up here on the top it's like a really dark brownish type of a color that kind of leads down here into the back. Really beautiful as far as the paint goes of this Carnotaurus. Definitely very impressive. And then of course the lower jaw and the underside is a whitish coloration that kind of tapers off to a creamy type of a coloration here on the underside. So they went the extra mile, that's for sure, as far as the paint is concerned with this Carnotaurus. As we start to run down the neck, you can of course see all of the trademark Carnotaurus bumps or osteoderms, however you want to term them, start to form, and very nice skin folds and creases in the skin. As we run down the neck, you can see that the dinosaur is turning its head to the right, so it kind of scrunches up the skin there. Whereas on this side, it kind of appears as though the skin is being stretched a little bit, not as many creases, but it still looks really nice. They did a very good job on the skin detail and everything. The skin texture looks really good as well, so beautiful job on the neck there. And then we come down into the arms, very short Carnotaurus arms like you would have. That looks good. Not too much to talk about in the way of the Carnotaurus's arms, probably because he doesn't have much arm to talk about. And then you can see that that dark brown kind of has like striping all over the place, and as I turn it you can really see how nice that looks. It looks very cool, and I really think it looks very realistic potentially. I love the fact that there are so many different shades of color included in the body. It's just really quite unbelievable, and it's something you don't see too many companies do, so they did a great job on the coloration of this dinosaur. I really like the skin folds here in the stomach, but right here as this right leg is stepping up, you can see it kind of pushing into the skin of the side. So very beautiful attention to detail, exactly as that would be, especially because as you can see if you look above it, and this is one thing that I've heard a lot of people complain about, but I don't think it looks bad personally, is the fact that this Carnotaurus is pretty chunky. He's very thick. I don't know if I would say chunky, he's a thick Carnotaurus. So he's got some extra skin compared to maybe some of his other family members that are out there. He's a little bit of a chunker as far as stealing the meals from other dinosaurs, and you can see that that shows through with the way that his leg is now pushing up into his stomach and kind of pushing and meshing all the skin up together. It looks very good. You can see some beautiful detail right here in this general hip area. Lots of skin creases and stuff. As we come down the leg, nice musculature, especially here in the thigh. Look at that, it looks very good. Very muscular looking thigh, and that calf muscle is just huge. He's definitely been doing a lot of running after prey, and that shines through right there with that gigantic calf muscle. Pushing the tag back, we can get an idea of how nice the foot looks. Beautifully sculpted, really nice. There's no sloppiness with the nail paint or anything. The nails look really good. So the overall foot just looks fantastic. Beautiful dew claw painted there. Definitely looks very nice. And then we come up here into the tail. Tail looks very good as well. Again, those bumps that run the course of the skin run the entire length of the body. And that awesome paint just continues on all the way down the tail. I love that brown, that very dark, almost burnt umberish brown striping that is all over the place, and then it kind of leads to just regular stripes that run out the course of the tail, and it looks beautiful. This side looks very good as well. Again, those small Carnotaurus arms, you can see the shoulder blades elaborated a little bit there. One thing you don't see is the rib cage of the dinosaur, because as we mentioned previously, he's pretty well fed, so he doesn't have that problem going on. And again, the rear leg here looks very good. You don't see the scrunching of the skin on this side. You see the skin being pulled as the leg is stretched back. Again, that beautiful attention to detail as Safari LTD always does. They're very good at what they do when it comes to the sculpting of the details of their dinosaur figures. But what you can see here is that as the leg is bent back, this gigantic calf muscle is actually pushing up into the skin here and kind of scrunching the skin up on this leg on the left side. So that's super cool, and it's something honestly I don't see too often when it comes to dinosaurs being sculpted. That's like a detail that I feel a lot of companies would miss, and Safari definitely did not. They did a great job there on that, and the way that that huge calf muscle is just reacting with the skin here of the rear left leg. It looks beautiful. And coming down again into the foot, that foot is sculpted magnificently, and those nails are not sloppily painted. They look very good. Once again, you can see the dew claw there. So overall, that whole general area just looks fantastic. And then we come up here into the tail, and the tail again has that very dark brown, and then it leads to this lighter coloration, but continues with that burnt umber type brown that turns into just regular striping here at the end of the tail, and it looks fantastic. And one thing I really like that I don't recall if Safari really did before, they may have, and it's something that I just missed out on, but if we look at the underside, they have included a cloaca, and that is just awesome. That is one detail that just makes this thing look just so much more real and just gives it that step above and beyond what you expect when it comes to the realism of your figures, and Safari LTD did pull that off here with this Carnotaurus, and I believe they have included that with all of their 2019 lineup, so I am definitely a big fan of that. One thing with theropods that I'm always consistently concerned with is their ability to balance, because being a two-legged dinosaur, it often is a little bit hard for them to balance, honestly, but Safari has done an incredible job here with the balancing of this figure. It really balances beautifully. I do not have any issues with it. Look at that. Just go straight back to the perfect position that it was in. So overall, they have done a great job of balancing out this Carnotaurus, and there is no issues whatsoever with it balancing. It will not fall over or anything like that. It does come actually with one of those little plastic things that you can set under the legs to make sure they don't warp. I usually throw those away, and I don't know why, because then my dinosaur figures end up warping. But if you want to keep yours, it'll also help it balance, but honestly you don't need it because it just balances really perfectly on its own. Look at that, no matter where I put it. And this is a fairly off-level area that I usually review here, and you can see that it balances beautifully on it. As far as the size for this Carnotaurus, from the tail to the head, you are looking at about 10.5 inches, or almost about 26.5 centimeters, so that is pretty big. It's definitely impressively large. And for a size of height, you are looking at about 3 3/4 inches, or about 9.5 centimeters, a little over 9.5 centimeters actually, close to 10. And for a size comparison, any of you that are familiar with previous Safari lines will know this awesome Parasaurolophus that Safari LTD had released previously. So this should give you a pretty good idea of the size of the Carnotaurus next to the Parasaurolophus. Put him actually in front right there. It actually makes for a very cool scene. It looks like the Carnotaurus is just about to take down that Parasaurolophus as it's running away, and he's really honestly about to take a nice little bite out of his back there. And now if we want to go with a completely unrealistic size comparison, as far as the way these two would match up in real life, we've got a Microraptor here next to the Carnotaurus. Quite obviously they are not to scale with each other, but honestly, who would want to make a to scale Microraptor in like the same size frame as this Carnotaurus, because he would be just beyond tiny. You would barely even see him. He'd be so small. But again, if you own this Microraptor from Safari LTD, it should give you a pretty good idea of the Carnotaurus' size. It's definitely a fairly large Carnotaurus. Honestly, the Microraptor itself is pretty big, so the Carnotaurus being much larger than that Microraptor shows you that this Carnotaurus is definitely a pretty sizable figure. So in my opinion, this brand new 2019 Safari LTD Carnotaurus is awesome. I love it. A lot of people, like I had mentioned previously, I've seen people all over the place just complaining, saying, oh, the Carnotaurus is too thick, it's just too fat. But I don't really mind that at all. I know that we believe that Carnotaurus would be a pretty slim predator, but that's not to say that there wasn't one out there that just had a beautiful food supply and ate really well, which could be the idea behind this Carnotaurus. Maybe he is the head of his group, and he uses the other Carnotaurus of his pack to go hunt down prey, and maybe he just eats a little more than everybody else, which has caused him to get a little thicker. And honestly, I think it looks beautiful. I do not mind the thickness of this dinosaur figure at all. Overall, the sculpting is incredible on this figure. It really, really is. The fact that they have now added the cloaca in just takes this to another level as far as realism goes. The paint scheme is just beautiful. I really, really love this. Honestly, I was quite afraid that this Carnotaurus would not compare at all to the previous Carnotaurus that was in the Carnegie line from Safari LTD, but it really, really does. It's very close, honestly, as far as how nice it looks. The paint scheme especially just looks incredibly nice in person on this Carnotaurus. Unfortunately, I don't have my Carnegie Carnotaurus here right now to compare the two together to show you, as a lot of my collection is in storage, but trust me when I tell you that in person, this Carnotaurus is beyond words beautiful, and the paint applied to it is just so nice. and overall it just makes for a very beautiful and very majestic looking Carnotaurus. I cannot recommend this Carnotaurus enough to anyone. So if you do want to buy one of these incredible Carnotaurus figures, I will throw a link in the description to the Safari LTD website where you can order one for yourself. Trust me, for the price that you would pay, it is beyond worth it. As I said, it's a pretty sizable figure, and the detail and sculpt is just off the charts awesome. It's a great way to start the 2019 lineup here on my channel, and I am in love with this Carnotaurus. So go ahead, click the link, go buy one for yourself if you would like, and please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.